Welcome to the ALC Changemakers podcast. I'm your host, Jennifer Sconiers, and today I'm thrilled to have Cheryl Contee joining us. Cheryl is a visionary leader at the intersection of technology and social impact, with the background that uniquely positions her to guide nonprofits through the AI revolution. As a Yale graduate with a degree in ethics, politics, and economics, and a tech career that began as a scholarship student working computer science desks, Cheryl has spent her career merging emerging technology with mission-driven impact. She's the co-author of the comprehensive new book, AI for Nonprofits, a 600-page field guide written with Darian Rodriguez-Heyman that features insights from 57 contributors across multiple sectors. But Cheryl isn't just writing about AI for good, she's building it. As co-founder and senior advisor at Change Agent AI, she's creating alternatives to mainstream AI platforms that prioritize environmental consciousness, data privacy, and values alignment for nonprofits and mission-driven organizations. In today's conversation, we'll explore why there's really no such thing as not using AI in 2025, how nonprofits can adopt AI ethically and responsibly, and practical strategies for getting started. Whether you're wrestling with the environmental implications of AI or wondering how to maintain your organization's values while embracing new technology, this episode offers both philosophical frameworks and actionable guidance. Let's dive in with Cheryl Contee. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Jennifer Sconiers here at the ALC Changemakers podcast. I am here with Cheryl Contee. Welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer.
Of course. So for our listeners, Cheryl and I have been probably orbiting each other in the progressive movement space for, I don't know, a decade?
We don't need to talk about years and ages, girl, okay? I'm forever young. I don't know about you.
Yes. So what prompted me really to invite Cheryl to the podcast is she has a new book that she's going to tell us about AI for nonprofits. I know at ALC, we work with a lot of nonprofits, and right now they're wrestling with AI and what to do and so many implications. And so I've been telling groups that we work with, check out Cheryl's book. So Cheryl's here. That's where I can ask some questions and really she can just kind of lay out the book and where it came from and how she would envision people utilize this great resource. So welcome, Cheryl.
Thank you so much.
Yes. Well, let's start with your leadership journey. What brought you here? Like, what brought you to AI and tech?
Well, when you look at my career, it's really the merger between a couple of different influences, at least. One, my major at Yale was ethics, politics, and economics. But, as a scholarship student at that time, you were required to have a job. And long story short, the second highest paying job was being, what they called then a computer assistant or help desk. And so I did that for 3 years at college. And, looking back, my career really has combined, those two things. How can I use emerging tech and innovation to inspire greater impact, in nonprofits, and foundations, and of course, mission-driven companies.
That's awesome. Well, tell us a bit about this intersection between artificial intelligence and nonprofits, right? Because I think the AI conversation's been happening for a few years, but it's really feels new to the nonprofit space, or new-ish at least. Tell us a bit more about that and just like your approach and philosophy on it.
Sure. Well, one of the reasons my co-author, Darian Rodriguez-Heyman, and I wrote AI for Nonprofits was because one of the things we were hearing, we both worked with hundreds of nonprofits over the years in foundations, of course. One of the things we heard was, oh, well, and sometimes in a very holier than thou tone, oh, well, we're not using AI at this organization, which,
Right.
to which I was like, sweetie, baby, honey, I don't think you understand what's happening here. There's no not using AI. In fact, you have been using what we call classifier AI behind the scenes for 10 to 15 years, right? When you're using Amazon or UPS or any kind of online shopping, for example, any kind of online banking is using AI. Anything, that you're using that probably involves a database of some sort is also using AI. And here's what's up, AI is using you. So
Mm.
why not get into the driver's seat? This is a moment for nonprofit leaders and mission-driven leaders to actually take the reins. This is still a very, very new innovation, and there's lots of opportunity to shape how adoption is going to look like.
That's great. Can you just like walk us through from your vantage point? And I just want to tell listeners, this is a very thorough, right? It really kind of breaks it down. It feels almost like a how-to or maybe textbook or guide, if you will, that you should keep with you when you have your AI questions. Really walk us through kind of how you all chose to break that down, because there's also expertise. Like it's not just you pontificating with AI. You actually interviewed quite a few people for this book.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that was our goal, right? To provide a real field guide. There are some amazing books out there, like Beth Cantor's, The Smart Nonprofit, et cetera. She was one of the first, but a lot of those were more sort of theoretical, right? Anticipating, what was going to happen. And we wanted a book that was very much how to. You nonprofit leader are ready to roll up your sleeves, ready to get in there, but you would like to do it safely, ethically, and responsibly. So, yeah, we have 57 different contributors across quite a few, almost every sector you can think of, whether it's corporate or technical or profit, philanthropic, startup, etc. Because we really wanted to have a broad base. There are 600 pages. It takes 2 years to write it. So what we recommend, and it's in the book, but just since you're listening, y'all, what we recommend is that you look at the table of contents, right? Figure out where you are, where are you struggling, zero in on those. Nobody has time to read. I mean, the book is gigantic. Like, no, ain't nobody got time in these times to read a big old book. So we're not expecting you to do that. Instead, isolate the things that you're challenged by and then come back. As you said, Jennifer, it's really that, kind of base level tome that you can come back to later as your needs evolve.
Mhm. Thank you for that, Cheryl. So, what would you say are some overall best practices? And I say this because so at ALC we work with a lot of nonprofits work on democracy work, environmental work, right? And I will name that I've noticed, particularly in the environmental or conservation spaces, right? There's a real ethical conversation, and it has to do with environmental impact. And I know there's some groups who've made the hard line that they will not adopt AI because it goes against their ethic or their ethos or their value system around the environment, while others are taking a pragmatic stance saying, well, we will use it but under these conditions. What would be a best practice for groups where they are having an ethical or moral challenge with AI adoption?
That this is a frequently asked question. It comes up a lot. And, I'm glad that people are thinking that way. That's actually a really good thing, and thank you for being conscious about that. First off, I would say this isn't a choice. Okay. Again, you are already using AI, whether you like it or not. So even the concept that you could choose this, there is no choice. Every kind of software that you're using, if they haven't already integrated some form of artificial intelligence into behind the scenes, they will, okay, probably within the next 6 months. So this isn't really an option. But, to make you feel better for those, who are conscious, yes, right now, data centers, can and are taking up a lot of energy. However, the globe is actually on an accelerating snowball of clean energy adoption. And clean energy, if you think about it, it's just technology, right? Like oil, you got to physically pump it out of the ground. coal, you got to dig it out of the ground or blow off a mountaintop or something stupid like that. What we know about technology and clean energy as a technology is that it gets faster, smarter, cheaper, right? More abundant, more accessible over time. And that's happening. So, for example, here in California, where I live, California is now 2/3 clean energy.
Mm.
The largest economy in the world, we're the fourth largest economy in the world. It is the largest economy that has achieved majority. The Netherlands, where I'm heading next week, is 50%. It's 50% clean energy. The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the largest oil producer in the world, plans to be 100% clean energy for their own electrical grid by 2030. Okay, so like for those of you who are concerned about, energy use, I hear you and the environmental impact, but that is a problem that is very quickly being solved. And you can imagine that, all of the folks who are building these big data centers are going to want to be using clean energy. They're going to want to shift those over. If for no other reason, Jennifer, then it's cheaper. And it will just be cheaper and easier for them to do that. So, and then finally, I am a co-founder over and senior advisor over at Change Agent AI. That's the change.ai. And that is a software that is competitive. It does all of the same things that a ChatGPT or a Claude does, but it is tailored very specifically for, people who are environmentally conscious. It is environmentally very, lean that way in terms of how we're using energy. It is tailored to, nonprofit ways of talking and thinking, diverse images and videos. It's just, it is, because one thing that people might not realize, if you actually look at the terms of service of, say, OpenAI or Anthropic, they're very clear. They don't want political speech. And in these times, what isn't political, right? What isn't political? So, the chance that, much like with Facebook, and what used to be Twitter and some of the others where, I used to run a lot of digital ads. I have a lot of experience in that. And it was always a constant sort of figuring out, well, what will they accept in an ad? Because they, quote, don't want to do politics, unquote, right? So, what if you didn't have to deal with a lot of that, right? What if you were using, an LLM that you can't large language model, that you can control, where you can keep your data private, where that there are people who are being, environmentally conscious running it, and who are putting in the same shared values that you have.
I love that because I was going to ask you, like, where should people start, right? For socially conscious folks. So it could be people who are in progressive nonprofit spaces or just like B Corps, people who care about the environment, social impact. I'm hearing, say yours like one more time because I want to make sure we promote.
Sure. It's Change Agent AI. And yeah, I think it's important to have alternatives, so I think the Change Agent AI provides a really strong and very serviceable alternative that again, keeps your data private. It allows you to customize, within and, you can participate in how, your implementation is trained, what types of language, et cetera. So I think it's if for those of you, head over to the change.ai. If you're like, hey, I don't feel for a lot of different reasons, and I totally get it. Different reasons, you're not down with ChatGPT, you don't want to get down with Claude, I get it, or Llama. Check out Change Agent.
Okay. Well, great. Yeah, I definitely want to give people the resource and tool. And just really quickly, so people understand, there's different types of AI. And this is something where this came up in a board conversation that I was in, a nonprofit board, right? Because I think those of us use things like Grammarly, right? Or like whatever. And then, so like predictive, then there's generative. Can you just give us like a quick rundown the different types of AI and like, just like how should we navigate? Because some we don't actually opt into, they're just there.
Well, exactly. Exactly. Again, I feel a lot of compassion for the folks who are saying, well, I feel uncomfortable using AI. I totally get it. Or, you're worried that AI is somehow going to take your job if you let it in the door. And, one of our contributors said something really fun, which was, hey, AI is not going to take your job, but someone who knows how to use AI well is going to take your job. And
Yeah.
100% true. At every juncture of a big technical leap, there have been people who've been worried that, the new technology was going to take their jobs. And sometimes it has, but there's still other jobs and oftentimes new jobs. Great example, people might remember the word Luddite, right? Luddites, that was literally early 19th century, a group of, textile workers and weavers who were worried that, automated looms and new machinery was going to take their jobs. And they would go around and like smash the looms and like, and now we kind of smile at it because it seems naive, right? But, to say like, I'm not going to use AI, it is very Luddite, okay? Because, right, there it's being integrated. So we talked a bit about classifier AI, right? Which is the AI that is remembering how you're using it and will serve you. For example, you're on Walmart, it will maybe remember what you bought the last time and serve up, something new that's very customized to you and personalized. Or, you bought something on, say, an Amazon, and how does it get to you in 2 days? AI, right?
Yeah.
Is what helps the truck's route and predict, how soon you're going to get it, etc. Or, maybe you are using some sort of like mail software like MailChimp or, Bontera or Blackbaud. Those are also using AI already, right? Even Action Network is using machine learning and integrating it. Oh yeah, no, I've talked to the leadership there, at length. And actually Brian Young, the founder of Action Network, is one of our contributors in AI for nonprofits. And, so he talks in some detail about how they're using machine learning. So, there's no way getting around it. So yes, there is so classifier, there's predictive analytics, right? Where, it can analyze, right? How people have been using your website, for example, or your social media platforms, and or your digital ads. That's been using AI for a very long time to place, your ads. Oh yes. So that's, predicting how, okay, if someone clicked on this ad before, are they likely to click on this ad again? Or, you know, we know that we have a big campaign coming up. Here's what happened in the last 5 campaigns. Can you help us predict, what kinds of audiences? So that's going to get much more sophisticated over time. Of course, there's content development. I think that, AI is great for just like helping you generate stuff. I mean, that's one of the ways in which, those who, on the far right, they are really good at just flooding the zone. And I think that, those of us who are not Nazis need to, be a lot more prolific, frankly, and louder and shout them down, with nutritious content. So, you can use AI to uh, build rough drafts of your emails or your social media posts. There's a tool called Opus AI where you can take a whole bunch of raw video. Opus AI will watch your video within seconds, and then it will select several, like, at least 10 different snippets that they think will be best performing on social media, right? I mean, and that happens within like a 2-minute window. Imagine how long it would take you on your own, if you're a relatively small nonprofit or a startup, or a small foundation, how long would it take you, right, to sort of figure that out on your own? Or I like Pop AI, for making slides. You can actually, create the slide text, maybe in Change Agent or ChatGPT, and then you can import that text into Pop AI, and it will literally just create within seconds a whole deck for you. Now, AI is like a really smart intern. You know, it can do a lot of things, but it doesn't have the experience you have, It doesn't have the sophistication that you have. It doesn't have the context and meaning and passion that you have. So I say, when you're doing content development, you want to remain the human in the loop. And literally, that is a technical term in HITL, human in the loop. You need to remain the human in the loop who's ensuring that however you're using AI, that there's quality, right? That matches. So always consider that stuff a first draft.
Yeah, I love this. I love this. And I think this is the way we've been talking with our clients about this, right? Because there are just concerns about, will this replace people? Well, actually, do it right. No. No, right? But there's a smart way of doing it. And also, whatever it spits out requires human eyes and editing, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about augmentation, right? What if you, as a person, could just get so much more done in a day? No one can replace you and your knowledge and your passion, right? But, what if you could take the things that are on your plate that are the most tedious, the most repetitive, the most time consuming, that you hate the most? What if you could get AI to take over those things so you can spend more time doing the work that you love? Probably involves more human connection.
Yeah, I love this. And we could probably keep talking, Cheryl. Where could people buy your book? And also, I'm curious, is it going to be on Audible? Is there going to be like an audio version for those of us who like have to hear things instead of free? That's just a personal curiosity for me. But
Oh,
where can you
yes.
find your book?
And trust me, we have really been pressing because we know that people, of course, if you're listening to Jennifer's podcast, you probably would prefer to listen to the book. We are pressing the publisher for the audiobook. They're still working on it. But, you can always, take snippets of it. And, there are lots of things that turn, other topics into podcasts that you can listen to. So you can always just sort of upload some content that's based on AI for nonprofits and build your own little podcast. I know, pretty cool.
That's
Um,
really
it is really cool. Yeah, we actually did that for the book. You can find it on AI, the number 4, N as in Nancy, P.org. So AI for NP.org, like AI for nonprofits.org. You can hear there's like a 5-minute podcast that kind of talks about the book and some of the major themes. And it's pretty good. It's pretty cool. And, we generated that using AI. So we hope that will be coming out soon, probably, hopefully by the time you're listening. But in the meantime, it's available on Amazon. And we've been really excited, Jennifer, by, the reception of the book was number 1 in office automation on Amazon for weeks. It
oh,
achieved top 5 in the AI category, which is a pretty big one. An even bigger one, top 10 in business and finance. Number 1, of course, in nonprofit orgs and charities, at one point. But yeah, we didn't code it that way. It wasn't coded for the business audience, but, Amazon, I think, really put this forward in their own way to encourage people to think about, how can we adopt AI, but ethically and responsibly.
I love this. I love all that. And where can listeners find you if they want to follow you?
Well, you can find me over at ai4np.org, but also I'm on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find me.
Love this. Well, thank you so much, Cheryl. I know our listeners are getting so much out of this. And again, we're going to have all of these links in the show notes so you can find all of these hot links down there. Thanks, everybody. Until next time. Thank you so much for joining us today on the ALC Changemakers podcast. If you found today's conversation inspiring or helpful, we'd love it if you'd subscribe, rate, and leave a review. It helps other changemakers like you find our show. At Abundance Leadership Consulting, we believe in building sustainable leadership in connected communities through justice, courage, and care. If you want to learn more about our work, access leadership resources, or connect with our community, head over to jennifersconyers.com. Until next time, keep leading with purpose, keep building relationships that matter, and keep creating change, one bold step at a time.